Next, we have Rishi from Revolut, and Revolut being one of the hottest fintech startups. So really appreciate Rishi taking the time here as well. They've reached a tremendous milestone, I think, just about 2 weeks ago with 1 million customers. And that's fully 1 million customers in a very viral approach without any marketing expense. So fantastic to have you, Rishi, and please take it away.
Great. Thanks for the invite, Robert. Appreciate it. Look forward to taking you through our story to date. So essentially, Revolut launched 2 years ago, and our vision at that time was, how do we solve the huge pain point that international customers who live and work across many geographies have, which is namely that when they transact in foreign currencies, they often incur very high fees. So if you look at issuing banks today, they charge typically anywhere between 3 to 8%. And the worst thing about it, right, is that often consumers do not even know they are subject to these charges. So often the fees will be hidden in the exchange rate that they give, with actually there being a very large divergence between the interbank FX rate and the rate that the consumer actually gets. So our goal was to create an app and a payment tool which would remove all of that friction for consumers. So I think, maybe the best way to show it is actually just to demo the app to some of the audience, to give a bit of a feel for how it really works. So I'll share my screen now. Cool. So essentially the app works that you download it. The actual verification process takes literally under a minute, because a customer will give in their personal details. They'll take a photo of their photo ID, and then they will take a selfie of themselves. It gets verified, and then they are ready to go. The customer will then top up money into the account. So I come from the UK, so I'll be topping up pounds. You can do that in a number of ways. You can have your salary paid into it. You can do a bank transfer, or you can top up by linking another card. And at that point, I then have my currency in the app. So I then order a physical MasterCard or Visa from Revolut. And anywhere I go in the world, I will then actually get access to the perfect interbank rate. So if I look at a time I was recently in Tokyo, I will see here for a transaction the exact exchange rate, and that rate will be the interbank bid rate or at that given time. So the actual spending functionality was the core functionality with which we started. Then we realized there was a benefit in allowing customers to actually hold multiple currencies within the app. So euros, dollars, Canadian dollars, Japanese yen. So we now allow customers to hold 25 different fiat currencies. And the reason people were very interested in this was to enable them to lock in an exchange rate, right? So if they wanted to actually hedge their position, if they thought the pound might be dropping versus Japanese yen, they could actually do that transaction in real time via the app at zero cost. So this exchange rate here is a live feed coming through from our rate provider, Morningstar. So it's the only, as far as I know, it's the only place where you can hold more than 24 fiat currencies in one wallet. Then we realized there was the need for customers to send money to each other. So we actually allow consumers now to send money to other people in the Revolut ecosystem at zero cost and with instant speed. So if I have a friend living in France, like this one, Sophie, I can actually send her any of my currencies. So if I wanted to send her Japanese yen, I could do the Hong Kong dollar, and that would instantly be in her account. Similarly, I could request money from that customer in that way. So that functionality is actually very much like Venmo, you might have heard of in the US, or Cash, I know is one in Japan that's just started. So the big fundamental difference is they only allow single currency remittance, but we are focused on making it completely international, completely cross borders in any currency at zero cost. So we also allow customers to transfer to bank accounts outside of the Revolut ecosystem. So I went on holiday with a friend from America. We only offer Revolut now in Europe for now. So this friend could not have Revolut given that he lives in America. So I had to send it to his traditional US bank account by the routing number. And once again, that is at the perfect interbank rate. So that service might remind you of TransferWise, but whereas they charge 0.5% to 1%, our aim was really to bring that cost to zero and give people the interbank rate. So I think that is that's kind of been the core functionality. Why I think we've grown from zero to over 1 million customers in the space of 2 years, and we've done that with zero marketing spend, is because we've continued to make the app super functional and super engaging. So the first step in that was how customers actually manage their cards. So as I mentioned, a customer can order a card to any location in the world within 48 hours, and they can choose whether they make it a MasterCard, a Visa. They can actually order virtual cards instantly. So we see huge demand for this, where customers will actually have several virtual cards. They'll link all their online subscriptions to it to make sure they don't have to go through the hassle of recarding whenever they lose or break a card. And also, if they're just generally a little bit unsure of the online merchant they're using, they will use a virtual card for that. So we see a lot of volume going to Alibaba and AliExpress, and most of those transactions are actually done using virtual cards. We again focused on putting security back in the control of the consumer, because I'm sure everyone on this conference knows the pain of going abroad, spending in a foreign country, and then receiving a call from one's bank saying, we've had to block your card due to suspicious activity based on whatever strange data points they're using. And often when they block your card, they tell you they can only send you a new card to your home address, which is pretty useless if you're in the middle of Indonesia packing through the through the countryside. So for us, we allow customers to actually turn on different security toggles. The most popular one is this location-based security, where if the card transaction happens a certain distance from your phone, it will be blocked until you verify it, because obviously that sort of transaction has a higher risk. And we allow you to disable things like online transactions or ATM withdrawals to ensure there's a lower likelihood of fraud. And for that reason, we actually, of all card issuers, have one of the best fraud rates in the industry, less than 10 basis points. And that's something that we hope to continue. This card feature is also proven popular in issuing cards to children, to relatives, because of the fact that adults could actually set limits for cards. They can actually set limits by specific categories. So if I want to focus on reducing my restaurant spend or reducing my entertainment spend, that is all enabled by the app. Cool. So you might be wondering how does Revolut make money, given that we're offering this service at the interbank rate. So there's two important things to think about here. The first is card interchange. So this is the fee that merchants pay Visa or MasterCard when they acquire funds using those cards. So we have arrangements with Visa and MasterCard where they give us 100% of that card interchange. That can vary wildly. So in Europe, that could be as low as 0.2%. In Asia, that jumps up to 2% or even more with some types of card. So that's our first source of revenue, but that's kind of netted by many of the other costs we have by working with Visa and MasterCard. So what we have developed, and this is the more tab you're now looking at, is a whole host of other financial products that people, really are user-based demanded of us. Because this is what we thought was very interesting. Initially, we were just focused on the FX piece, but we realized our user base is an international user base. So there are people who work and live in several different countries, and for whom many existing financial products are actually broken, because typically financial products are only being geared towards quite traditional customers who lead, I'd say, a relatively straightforward life in one jurisdiction. So the first product we developed was actually a credit product, which enables customers to get credit instantly wherever they are in the world. And we linked into a peer-to-peer lending platform in Europe to do this. And the reason we could offer much more attractive rates versus the banks is peer-to-peer platforms have a lot less fat in them, generally run off pretty tech-streamed businesses, and obviously connect individual or institutional lenders with private borrowers from Revolut. This was a classic example of how in the UK, you have many people who have just moved to the UK, or in fact in any other country. And because they have such a thin credit file, they're often denied credit, even if in their other home country, they have a very strong credit history. And that's because many of the credit bureaus, right, are purely domestic focused, and they do not seem to communicate with each other. So when we built our risk model and our credit assessment, we made sure that customers who have been using Revolut for a long time across many jurisdictions, the data they've generated by using Revolut, we made sure that feeds into the model, and it gives them a higher chance of getting credit at a much more attractive rate than if they went to many of the providers in the UK. And we also made sure we focused on feeding quite alternative data. So things like, what is the operating system of their phone? What device are they using? Where has their geography been over the last couple of months? Because from that, if we trace a picture of them, we're able to come up with a better credit decision. So that was the first product we focused on, and we'll be launching overdrafts as well. Right now, it's installment loans, and we have started, as I mentioned, by doing that in partnership with others. But our approach is always to integrate via APIs with third parties that are expert. And if we see real demand, we look to take it in-house. So we've actually applied for a license, a credit license that will allow us to offer credit ourselves, to basically raise wholesale lines of funding, which we could lend out and make the actual full decision ourselves in-house. So we're excited to move to that stage in the second quarter of next year. After that, we moved on to a product which is premium. So this is a major revenue generator for us. So of all new customers that sign up, about 18% now choose the premium model. And the premium model is a subscription model, and it's really what we like to call the Amazon Prime of our service. So we allow customers to order several different premium cards. We actually give them higher limits on ATM withdrawals, because that's capped for standard users at about £300 per month. We double that for premium users. We have a range of other benefits, including cryptocurrency, which I'll come on to talk about later. But these are things like free overseas medical insurance, airport lounges, which are about to launch, free priority support, and speedier bank transfers when a customer is doing a bank transfer out to a non-Revolut account. And for this service, we charge about $9 a month. And our vision is always now, as we expand and go into new product categories, to make sure we offer those to our premium customers at a much more attractive rate and to drive uptake that way. The third space which we've launched is actually the insurance space, because this again was very relevant for our customers who are frequently traveling and who need to protect either themselves via overseas medical insurance, or to actually protect their device. So if you start with device insurance, it was clear that, huge need, because if you look at device insurance and phone claims of all new iPhones, right, about 25% break within the first year. And the actual costs of going to a Genius Bar and having those fixed are enormous. Typical insurance providers have actually been very expensive, and often the service has been poor. So that's why we saw there was a clear market need. And what we focused on doing was making sure customers could insure their phone from as little as £1 per week. The beautiful thing about having this wallet is that we could actually detect exactly what phone a customer is on. We can detect exactly when they upgrade to a new device. And so we can actually become a super powerful marketing engine for offering our other products. So at the point a customer upgrades from his iPhone 7 to his iPhone 8, we can actually push him and say, listen, we see you've upgraded, why not get your insurance with us? The next product is overseas medical insurance. And for the first time ever, we're now allowing customers to pay only for the days that they are abroad on holiday. So we've actually built in this technology, which means that our app will detect when you go abroad on holiday. So it will detect as soon as you land outside of your home country, and it will then essentially toggle it on your insurance. So if you're from the UK and you go to Japan, to Tokyo, as soon as you land, it will say, listen, you're covered for £1 per day. And as soon as you go back to your home country, it will turn it off. The other cool thing is that we've built it in a modular way, so you can add on winter sports cover for certain days that you will need it. So again, we start doing very contextual marketing. If we see after being in Tokyo, you land in Niseko, we'll then push you and say, hey, why not add on winter sports cover for an extra 60p per day? So, this is something we're super excited about, because insurance has never been done in this way. It's typically been done in a way where someone buys an annual policy, is really not engaged with it, often feels like they've overpaid because they're essentially paying for days when they're not traveling, if they're traveling less than average. Whereas with us, you go abroad knowing you'll only pay per day that you're abroad, and you don't have to think about it because the technology does it for you. And we actually cap how much you spend. So if you end up spending more than you thought, you'll have a fixed cap of, say, £30, and that will cover you for the rest of the year. So I think then the thing to talk about is our latest release, which has been absolutely huge. So if you think about Revolut, I mentioned we've acquired 1.1 million customers organically. Over the last 3 months, our average number of customers acquired per day has been in the range of has been in the range of 3,000 to 3,500 customers per day. And that's all across Europe. We have about 50% in the UK and about 50% in other European markets. Our largest other markets are Spain, France, Ireland, Greece, and Lithuania, interestingly. So when we launched the cryptocurrency feature, our signups has now tripled to between 9.5K and 10K per day, purely by launching this new feature. And this is a great way that, we made sure when we launch a new product, it can fulfill several criteria. It can add extra value to our existing customers, but that it can also spearhead growth in acquiring new customers. So the actual feature is very simple, because in our view, fiat and cryptocurrencies should be as accessible to consumers. And often, if you look at the process for getting exposure to cryptocurrencies, it's a complete faff. Customers end up spending days, they end up incurring very high FX fees, because typically, for example, a UK customer will have to switch to euros before making a transfer. The actual trading fees are intransparent again, and typically very high. So our vision was, how can we make it as simple in the app as when customers change fiat currencies? So we allow customers now to get exposure to Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum. So I'll just show you how that works now. So here, for example, this will again be the live stream coming through, and I'll be able to buy more Bitcoin at the live rate in exactly one click. The trade is executed immediately, and for this we're connecting to the Bitstamp exchange in Europe. And so once a customer has bought, he will then see his Bitcoin portfolio here, and he can do that for Litecoin and for Ether. Customers can actually send that within their Revolut network instantly, so across the world. In phase one, we've restricted customers loading in cryptocurrencies and also sending outside of the ecosystem. So essentially, the customers being given exposure to cryptos in the easiest way in the whole world, right? Because for a customer to activate it, all they had to do was click on this button, cryptocurrencies, if they were already a customer. So over the last 5 days, we're also seeing on average about $5 million US dollars per day in trading volume. A quite nice growth hack we did was, up until now, we've actually made it a condition that you have to be a premium member to get access to cryptocurrencies, or you have to invite 3 friends to join Revolut. And when I say invite, well, you have to make sure they actually create an account. So that, that's also been one of the major reasons I think we've spearheaded this 3 times growth over the last week. And in terms of premium customers, typically we sign up. We've been signing up about 1,000 to 1,500 per day, and now that figure has obviously jumped up to about 3,000 per day. So that's something that's really impressing us. I think the last thing to touch on is really how we're now expanding across the world, and I guess why we're doing it. So at the moment, we only operate in Europe. In summer, we raised a lot of money to get into the Asian markets. So the first markets to launch will be Hong Kong and Singapore. And the market that will follow after that is Japan. So we're aiming to be in Japan by May 2018. We're going through the licensing process. We already have an entity incorporated, and we're building a team on the ground there. And I think when we look at new markets, we focus obviously on the size of the price, so the number of customers that are either remitting internationally or traveling internationally. and also the willingness to accept technology, and finally also the competition in the marketplace. And I think it's fair to say in Japan, in this space, there's been no one really focused on delivering a product like this. Also for us, the benefit of having local presence in all of these markets is that it enables ramps in and ramps out of our payment ecosystem. So it will completely optimize how we move money to Japan when a customer, say from the UK, wants to send money to a bank account in Japan. So I know that's that's probably about my time allowance, but hopefully you have some questions and I'm happy to answer them.
We'll see if there are any question coming through the chat. On the crypto side, is the money you're making basically on the premium product then, or do you get a cut out of the bid-ask spread on Bitstamp? How does it work?
Yeah, we're charging a fee of 1.5%. So that's an all-in fee. And if you compare it with many of the exchanges in UK or Europe, that's versus probably about 6 to 8% that many of the platforms are charging. I'm not sure what it's like in Japan with some of the platforms like Bitflyer, but I imagine cost will be one element, but also the hassle of going through those channels to get exposure is what we've tried to reduce.
All right. Cool. No question. Seems like very, very clear to everybody. You talked about Japan. What about kind of the other side of the pond, like a US presence?
Yeah, so that's also ongoing. Probably will happen by about April of next year. America's interesting because again, there are many digital banks. There are actually a few credit cards that would focus a bit more on international travel, but we don't think there's anyone who's brought everything into one. So that often when I describe ourselves, I like to think of us as having combined what TransferWise does, having combined what Venmo does, and now building on that with features like cryptocurrencies that no other app offers in one place. So I think that's how we'll truly stand out from the competition there.
And so you spoke about your target segment as kind of the international travelers as well. And on the other hand, typical countries where you've got many people working abroad, and there might also be more unbanked. And I'm thinking of the Philippines, for example, right? For obvious reasons. Is that ultimately a target for you as well, with kind of home remittances from kind of the workers abroad, or is that too little volume for you to be interesting?
So that's a very good point. So if you look at UK to Poland, for example, is a remittance corridor of about $3 billion US dollars, and we see like the perfect example and use case of this in our payment ecosystem. So we will see customers who sign up for Revolut in Poland. Maybe one of the parents will actually move to England to work. They'll earn in pounds. They'll be able to convert their money to zloty, and then they can send it back instantly to their family who's also on Revolut in Poland. So I think that use case is super, super powerful, because these are the people who are most affected by FX rates, and they're people who are most in need of remitting instantly to relatives back home. So I think that's a piece we'll focus on delivering a lot more. So we're actually speaking as well to Uber at the moment about a similar solution where they have many drivers, right, who will come to Europe from Asia, from Africa, and they want the ability to build in a system so that when a Uber driver finishes their journey, they get paid out instantly, and they can then remit that instantly to their relatives across the world.
Perfect. So what do you expect your growth path to be? It's 1.1 now. Obviously, the equation has changed a bit now with the crypto offering, right? Seems like it's exploding even further. But if you look out into end of 19, end of 20, where do you expect to be from a global consumer basis?
Yeah, so I think launching in all these territory in 2018 to mean that the size of the prize we can go after is much larger. So internally, our goals are all set on being at 10 million customers by the end of 2020. And I think if we can replicate the success in the US or in Asia, it should be achievable. I think what will be interesting is to see whether we can grow organically in markets like Japan, Australia, without marketing spend, which is what we were able to achieve in Europe. But it may be more difficult in more conservative markets like Japan.
So you're validating on the home address, so there's no way like a Japanese resident could become a Revolut customer at this point?
Yeah, exactly. So we, for KY, for our license reasons, we can only onboard Europeans. So we validate right on the identity card. So the the photo ID has to be from one of the countries we support. Okay.
So we'll have to wait until May.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. So we got a.
I think there's one. Can you hold different currencies? Yeah. So meant to see the video, but in the wallet you can hold over 25 currencies. And you can hold 25 fiat currencies, and you can hold 3 cryptocurrencies. So yeah, that's one of our key selling points. The fundamental thing is that most customers don't really need to hold many different currencies, because if you only have pounds and you're spending all over the world, you will always get the best interbank rate.
Cool. Last chance for any other questions? Haha, there we go.
How's it work? Okay. So I assume you're asking about how it works in the background. So obviously for the consumer, when they spend, they get the perfect interbank exchange rate, but then we actually are not instantly settling it. We, at the end of the day, will get a bill from Visa or MasterCard in the local currencies, and we will have to settle with those currencies. The benefit of our ecosystem, because global, is that we have this netting effect. So when a UK customer goes to France and it's in euros, we will more likely than not have the opposite action happening. So a French customer coming to the UK and spending pounds. So that means at the end of the day, we can actually settle without into the liquidity markets and buying too much currency.
Chika had a random question. Does net neutrality affect you at all?
Yeah, so I think that's something I haven't, to be honest, looked into that in enough detail. After the headlines this week, I will have to start looking at it and familiarizing myself. But I don't. Other people have a view on why that would affect us and whether we should be taking it very seriously.
All right. I think it's a very slick product, very simple to understand, and so I think the explanation is similarly. So we're really looking forward to seeing you personally, and then the Revolut here in May next year as well. I'm sure it will be a success. Thank you very much, Rishi.
Great, and Norbert, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, thank you. So we'll take a little break, and then we'll hope that Pavel will join us in about half an hour. Then we'll do our last session on Blue-Zell, a bit more a technical topic. And so a little break until then. Everybody can grab a coffee and a cookie. So see you in about 25 minutes, and thank you.